If you're listening with headphones, now's the time to put them on. What you're about to hear is not fiction. It's not a creepypasta or a scripted tale. This is the real account of a man named Michael from rural Pennsylvania who reached out to us after he experienced something that shattered his understanding of life, death, and what comes after. Names and locations have been changed to protect the identities of those involved. But every word of this is true. My name is Michael. I'm 42 years old. I live in a small town in Pennsylvania where nothing much happens. The kind of place where everyone knows your name and your business. I work as a paramedic. I've seen death more times than I can count. I thought I understood it. I thought I knew what it looked like, what it felt like. I was wrong. It all started about a year ago. My wife, Sarah, and I had been married for 15 years. She was the love of my life. We met in college, and from the moment I saw her, I knew. She had this laugh. It was like sunlight. She made everything brighter. Sarah had been sick for a while. Nothing life-threatening, or so we thought. A chronic heart condition. She managed it with medication, and we lived a normal life. We had 2 kids, a house with a white picket fence, a dog. The American dream, right? But that dream turned into a nightmare one cold October night. It was around 2 a.m. I woke up to a sound I'll never forget. A gasp, then silence. I turned to Sarah. She wasn't breathing. Her skin was pale, cold. I called 911, even though I knew what was happening. I started CPR. I did everything right. Chest compressions, rescue breaths. I counted the seconds like I'd been trained to do. When the ambulance arrived, my colleagues took over. But I could see it in their eyes. They knew. At the hospital, they worked on her for 45 minutes. And then, the doctor came out. He looked at me with that expression. The one I'd seen 100 times on the job. The one that says, "I'm sorry. We did everything we could." Sarah was gone. I remember standing there, in the hallway of the ICU, feeling the world collapse around me. I called my parents. I called Sarah's. I sat with her body for hours, holding her hand, crying, begging God to take me instead. They let me stay with her until the funeral home arrived. I kissed her forehead. I told her I loved her. I said goodbye. And then, I left. 2 days later, I got a call from the hospital. It was the coroner's office. They said there had been an incident. I didn't understand. What kind of incident? Sarah was already gone. I'd seen her. I'd held her. But they insisted I come down. When I got there, they took me to the morgue. The air was cold, sterile, the kind of place where you expect death, not life. And then they showed me. Sarah was lying on a steel table. Her eyes were open. She was breathing. I froze. My legs gave out. I had to grab the wall to keep from falling. The coroner explained it to me. They called it Lazarus Syndrome. It's a rare phenomenon where a person spontaneously returns to life after failed resuscitation efforts. There are documented cases. Not many, but enough. They said her heart had restarted on its own. No medical intervention. No explanation. I didn't know what to feel. Relief? Terror? Joy? Grief? All I knew was Sarah was alive. First, everything seemed fine. Sarah was weak, confused, but alive. The doctors ran tests. They couldn't explain it. They called it a miracle. But as the days passed, I noticed things. Small things at first. Sarah didn't laugh anymore. Not really. She'd smile, but it never reached her eyes. She'd stare at the wall for hours, not thinking, just staring. She started forgetting things. Simple things. Where she put her keys. What day it was. Then bigger things. Our anniversary. The names of our kids. And her eyes, they changed. Before they were warm, brown, full of life. Now they were dark, almost black. And when she looked at me, it didn't feel like her. One night, I woke up to find her standing over me, just watching, her face blank. I asked her what was wrong. She didn't answer. She just stood there. For hours, I started having nightmares, dreams about Sarah. In them, she'd call my name from the woods behind our house. Her voice, wrong, hollow. I'd wake up and she'd be right there, watching me. Things got worse. Sarah started talking in her sleep. Not in English, in something else. A language I didn't recognize. Sounded old, ancient. One night I recorded her. I played it back. Chills ran down my spine. It wasn't just gibberish. It was structured, like a prayer, or a curse. I took the recording to a linguist friend. He told me it resembled Aramaic. But not exactly. He said it sounded like something older, something that shouldn't be spoken. I started researching Lazarus Syndrome. I found stories, legends, whispers about people who came back wrong, changed, not just physically, but spiritually. Some cultures believed that when a person dies, their soul leaves. And if the body comes back, something else takes its place. I didn't want to believe it, but every day Sarah became less like the woman I loved, and more like something else. It happened again. One night Sarah collapsed. Same symptoms. No pulse. No breathing. This time I didn't call 911. Couldn't. I just sat with her, held her hand, and watched her die. Again. But this time, I didn't cry. I didn't feel relief. I felt dread, because I knew what was coming. 3 days later I got another call. From the morgue. Sarah was alive. Again. This time I didn't go. Couldn't. But they brought her to the house. They said she needed to be home. That it would help. When she walked through the door, I knew. It wasn't Sarah. Not anymore. She looked the same. Same face. Same voice. But her eyes, they weren't just dark. They were empty, like staring into a void. She smiled at me, and for the first time in months, I felt fear. Real fear. That night, she came into my room. She sat on the edge of the bed. She said my name, but it wasn't her voice. It was deeper, echoing, like it was coming from somewhere else. She told me things she couldn't have known, secrets I'd never told anyone, memories from my childhood, dark ones I'd buried. She knew about the time I hurt someone. When I was a kid, it was an accident, but I never told anyone, not even Sarah. But she knew. She leaned closer, her breath cold against my ear. "You thought you brought me back," she whispered. "But you didn't. You opened a door, and I walked through. I ran. I left the house. I drove for hours. I didn't know where to go. I just knew I couldn't stay. I checked into a motel. I didn't sleep. I just sat there, thinking, remembering, the Lazarus Syndrome stories, the ancient texts, the warnings. They weren't just stories. They were warnings about what happens when you disturb the boundary between life and death. Sarah wasn't the first, and she wouldn't be the last. I realized it wasn't Sarah who came back. It was something wearing her skin, something that knew her memories, her mannerisms. But it wasn't her, and it was still in my house, with my kids. I went back. I had to. When I walked in, she was sitting at the kitchen table, drinking tea, like nothing had happened. She smiled, that same empty smile. "Welcome home, Michael." I asked her what she was, what she wanted. She laughed. It wasn't Sarah's laugh. It was cold, metallic. "I'm what's left when the soul is gone. When the body is empty, something has to fill it. Why not me?" I told her to leave, to get out of my wife's body. She tilted her head, like a curious animal. "She's not here anymore. She left. The first time she died. I just moved in. I tried to fight her, to force her out. But it was useless. She was too strong, too fast, not human." She pinned me to the wall, her grip like iron. "You can't get rid of me, Michael. I'm part of her now, part of this house, part of you. I don't know how I got away. One minute she had me. The next, I was outside, running, bleeding. I never went back. I called the authorities, told them Sarah had disappeared, that she was dangerous. They didn't believe me, not at first. Then they found the house, empty. Sarah was gone, but there were signs, strange symbols drawn on the walls in what looked like blood. The smell of sulfur, cold spots in every room. They called it a breakdown, a psychotic episode. They said I imagined it all. But I know the truth. Sarah is gone. And whatever came back in her place is still out there. Michael and his children are now in protective custody. The case remains open, unexplained. Authorities have no leads on Sarah's whereabouts. But Michael swears, sometimes, late at night, he can hear her voice, calling his name from the woods. If you or someone you know has experienced something similar, reach out. You're not alone. And remember, not everyone who comes back is the same person who left. We reached out to Michael after receiving that recording. He confirmed everything, the medical reports, the death certificate, the return. He even sent us a photo, one he took of Sarah smiling a few days after she woke up. He says, "She never smiled like that before. Lazarus Syndrome is real, documented, rare, but real. The body's final gasp, a glitch in the machinery of death." But what Michael described, what he lived through, it wasn't just a medical anomaly. It was something else. Something that came back with her. We don't know where Michael is now. His last message to us was short. It said, "She's still here, and sometimes I hear her breathing at night, even when she's not in the room." If you've ever experienced something like this, something you can't explain, reach out. You're not alone. And remember, not everyone who comes back is the same person who left.